Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We are addressing tonight an extremely, and let me repeat it again, extremely important subject and in current affairs. And that's my specialization. I've studied international affairs in two universities. I did it at the Institute of International Relations of the University of the West Indies, and I had what a wonderful teacher. Yes, what a wonderful teacher in Professor Leslie Manigat from Haiti, who is the chairman, the director of the Institute. And I came at the top of the class in the exams. And then I went to Geneva to the Graduate Institute of International Studies to again study international relations. So current affairs is a subject in which I have some measure of specialization. And I also bring to bear on my analysis of current affairs my knowledge of the Quran, because Allah says in the Quran, this is what He says in Surah Al-Nahl, بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ونزلنا عليك الكتاب تبيانا لكل شيء إلى آخر الآية. And I have sent down this book on thee, O Muhammad, Allah's blessing be upon him, that it might explain all things. And therefore, it might not only explain the past and the present when it was revealed, but also the future. The Quran will explain the future. It explains the movement of history. And we are located at a very, very, very interesting moment in history when it is plain and clear to all of mankind, except perhaps some here in Trinidad, that the United States of America, which has given to the world something called Pax Americana, meaning America wants the rest of the world to submit to it. It must dominate the rest of the world. That's Pax Americana. There's no rival can exist and no combination of rivals. That Pax Americana, which has had its day in the sunshine, is now in decline. And it is now in its swan song. The American government is now behaving in a very strange way because of the decline of Pax Americana, and as a consequence of that also the decline of the US dollar. So what are we to expect now? We had a session with David Abdullah, who is a political analyst for whom we have a lot of respect. Yes, we have a lot of respect for David Abdullah as a political analyst, and he will be joining us tonight to give us his new views on what has just occurred in Venezuela. But before we invite David to join the discussion, and so let me first of all say that Allah spoke in the Quran on the subject of what is happening in world affairs. And we have in Islamic eschatology, we have the end time before the end of the world, the time of Al-Asr, the last hour before the end of the world. And in that end time, there are certain actors who are going to emerge in history. Amongst them, according to Islamic eschatology, is the antichrist, Dajjal, the false Messiah. Amongst them in Islamic eschatology is Gog and Magog. Amongst them in Islamic eschatology is Dabbatul Ardu, the creature of the earth. We cannot tonight deal with these subjects. No, but this is not unique to Islamic eschatology. There are also in Christian eschatology, they're also in Jewish eschatology, and perhaps there's also a hint of it in Hindu eschatology. So when we come to the Quran and Islamic eschatology, Allah speaks about a shadow which will come to the world, and He warns mankind about the shadow, and the shadow will come with 3 parts. Now then, let us teach a very simple subject in the methodology for the study of the Quran, and I hope my viewing audience will show a little patience with me, because the subject is hardly ever taught. The Quran says that there are 2 kinds of verses in the Quran. One are verses which are plain and clear, and all that you need to do is explain them. These are ayah muhkama. And Allah says about these verses that they constitute the very heart of the book. They are kitab. They have a very high status. But then He speaks about a second kind of verses. And these are verses which cannot be understood unless they are interpreted. And these are called ayat mutashabihat. But they are not a part of Kitab or the heart of the book. They don't have the same status as those verses which are plain and clear. But these verses which have to be interpreted are also important. They are a part of the Quran. And in the same way that the Quran has verses which have to be interpreted in order to be understood, similar with all scriptures. And when you interpret a verse of the Quran, you say, when Allah said this, He meant that. When you interpret a verse of the Quran, you must always say, Allah knows best. Because only Allah can confirm that an interpretation of the Quran is correct. If you interpret the Quran and your interpretation is correct, then it becomes truth, and truth will survive. The dogs can bark, but the caravan will keep on moving. But if you interpret the Quran and your interpretation is wrong, you will still be blessed for the effort that you made and for having the sense to say Allah knows best. And tomorrow that will go down the river of no return and be forgotten. So when I interpret the Quran, when Allah says, بَعْدَ أَعُوذُ بِاللَّهِ مِنَ الشَّيْطَانِ الرَّجِيمِ انطَلِقُوا إِلَى ظِلٍّ ذِي ثَلَاثِ شُعَبٍ, proceed to a shadow comprised of 3 parts. No one, just no one has the authority to say, my explanation is the final word. No one has the authority to do that. Only Allah can confirm that an interpretation is correct. And we have the freedom to interpret the Quran. No one can stop us from doing that. So now then, I am interpreting this verse of the Quran and I'm saying Allah knows best. When Allah says, "Intaliku ila zillin zi salasi shurab," proceed to a shadow comprised of 3 parts. And Allah is warning about this shadow. So this is not a good shadow, but warning. It's a shadow which brings punishment. My interpretation, and Allah knows best, is that the shadow is the antichrist, Dajjal, Dajjal. I have spent years and years and years of my life on the study of the end time. I don't think any scholar has devoted as much effort and time in this age as I have done to the study of the end time. And I have written so many books on the subject, on the end time. So I do deserve some respect when I offer a view on the subject. I say that the shadow is Dajjal, the false Messiah, the Antichrist. And he has a profile with footprints of 3 parts. He wants to rule the world from Jerusalem. And when he rules the world from Jerusalem, he will declare, I am the Messiah. In order to do that, he, number one, has to liberate the Holy Land, which is under Muslim rule. Number two, he has to bring the Jews back to Jerusalem to reclaim it as their own. 2,000 years after they were expelled and Allah banned their return. Number three, he has to restore a state of Israel in Jerusalem and get people to accept, particularly the Jews, that this is holy Israel of Solomon, Nabi Sulaiman, and David, Nabi Dawood alayhi salam. And number four, he has to cause that state of Israel to become the ruling state in the world, as it was in the time of Nabi Sulaiman, Nabi Dawood alayhi salam. Only then can he stand up in Jerusalem and say, I am the Messiah. Of course, that will be a lie. He would not be the Messiah. The Messiah is the son of Maryam, Jesus, the son of Mary, who came, who left, and who will return. So now then, I have mentioned in my book, Jerusalem in the Quran, which was written 25 years ago, that's a long, long time, that in his effort to rule the world from Jerusalem, he passes through three stages. In the first stage, he created Pax Britannica, where Britain became a ruling state in the world with an obsession with the Holy Land. And it was a British army which conquered Jerusalem in 1917. A British general who then declared the Crusades are now over. It was Britain which declared in 1917 something called the Balfour Declaration, that it is Britain's intention to establish and support the creation of a Jewish state, a Jewish homeland in Palestine. Then it was Britain who ruled over Palestine with a mandate delivered by the League of Nations from 1917 to 1948. It was Britain who presided over the creation of the State of Israel in 1948, and Britain which has consistently supported that Israel. But then came a period of time when Pax Britannica began to decline. And that was the First World War and the Second World War. And by the time the Second World War came to an end, Britain's day in the sun was coming to an end, and the United States was taking over from Britain, and a Pax Americana was replacing Pax Britannica. And this was the second stage of Dajjal's three stages. And when the Pax Americana came, the US dollar replaced the sterling pound. And Washington replaced London as the ruling capital in the world. And the United States now began the effort to take over from Britain in ruling the whole world. As Britain once ruled the world, Pax Britannica, the sun never sets on the British Empire. By 1914, when the First World War started, Britain controlled every single important naval base in the whole world. So now then, the United States of America begins to replicate Britain. And this is stage 2 of the Dajjal's mission. And the United States of America creates maybe 1,000 military bases all over the world. The United States want to rule the world. The whole world must submit to the United States. And this is Pax Americana. And the United States maintains the same obsession with Israel, like Trump now still has with Israel. The whole world is condemning genocide in Gaza, including Trinidad and Tobago. But no, Trump still supports Netanyahu. And Trump is still in support of Israel and his party in support of Israel. This is the obsession with Jerusalem and Israel, and this is Pax Americana. So in my book, Jerusalem in the Quran, published 25 years ago, I argued that there is a third stage of the process still to come, and that Pax Americana will give way to Pax Judaica. And that's where we are now. Pax Americana is now in irreversible decline, and it has to give way to Pax Judaica. There is a movement from Pax Britannica to Pax Americana to Pax Judaica. That in the same way that Britain ruled the world, and the British pound was used to help Britain to rule the world, and that was the first stage of three parts, and then the United States replaced Britain, and the US dollar replaced the sterling pound, both bogus money, and the same obsession that Britain had with Jerusalem and with Israel, the United States had the same obsession up to this day with Jerusalem and the state of Israel.